The rain fell in sheets, a relentless curtain that blurred the world into a watercolor of grays and silvers. Elias Crow hunched his shoulders against the onslaught, his camera bag slung protectively over one arm as he dashed from the shelter of the old lighthouse toward the winding path that hugged the cliffs. The wind howled like a banshee, whipping salt spray from the churning Atlantic below, and he cursed under his breath. It was supposed to be a simple shoot, capture the storm's fury for a gallery exhibit on Nature's Wrath. Instead, it had turned him into a drowned rat, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, his wool coat heavy with seawater. At 34, Elias had learned to weather storms of all kinds. The one 5 years ago had been the worst. His wife, Clara, confessing her affair with his best friend over a cold cup of coffee in their sunlit kitchen. The divorce had been swift, the settlement generous, but the emptiness lingered like fog. Photography had become his refuge, each click of the shutter a way to frame the chaos without letting it consume him. He didn't do love anymore. It was too unpredictable, too much like this cursed weather. A gust nearly knocked him off his feet, and he stumbled, his boot slipping on the slick cobblestones. That's when he saw her, a woman standing at the edge of the path, her violin case clutched to her chest like a shield. She was soaked through, her auburn hair a wild cascade down her back, her emerald dress clinging to her slender frame. She wasn't running, she was staring out at the sea, as if daring the waves to swallow her whole. Elias hesitated. Stranger danger, his rational mind whispered. But the wind tore her case from her grip, sending it skidding toward the cliff's drop. Without thinking, he lunged, snatching it just before it tumbled over the edge. He straightened, handing it back to her with a breathless, careful. The sea's hungry today. She turned, her hazel eyes wide with surprise, flecked with gold like sunlight piercing storm clouds. Raindrops traced paths down her cheeks, mingling with what might have been tears. Thank you, she murmured, her voice soft but steady, carrying a faint lilt, Irish, perhaps. I wasn't paying attention. He shrugged, water sluicing off his coat. None of us are, out here. He glanced at the path ahead, shrouded in mist. You heading into town? My truck's just up the hill. I can give you a lift. She bit her lip, glancing at the violin case as if it held the secrets of the universe. I'm Lena Voss. And you are? Elias. He extended a hand, then withdrew it, realizing the futility in the downpour. Come on, before we both end up as fish food. Lena hesitated only a moment before nodding. They trudged up the hill together, the rain drumming a staccato rhythm on the world. Elias pulled his battered pickup to a stop at the lighthouse base earlier, but now it felt miles away. As they walked, she told him snippets. She was a musician, in Blackport for a week to play at the old theater, chasing echoes of inspiration. The storm had caught her mid-reverie, composing a piece about lost loves and roaring tides. And you? She asked, her gaze curious despite the chill. Photographer. Trying to immortalize this mess. He jerked his thumb at the sky. Storms sell. People love the drama without the discomfort. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in the gale. Drama without discomfort. That's the human condition, isn't it? By the time they reached his truck, they were both shivering. Elias cranked the heat as high as it would go, the cab filling with the scent of wet wool and something floral, her perfume, faint but intoxicating. He drove her to the bed and breakfast on the town's edge, the wipers slapping a hypnotic beat. Conversation flowed, easier than it should have between strangers, her love for Vivaldi's Tempests, his obsession with Ansel Adams' stark contrasts. When he pulled up to the inn, the rain had eased to a drizzle. Join me for coffee tomorrow? Lena asked, impulsive, her fingers lingering on the door handle. The cafe by the pier. Noon. Elias blinked, caught off guard. Flirtation wasn't on his agenda. But her eyes held a quiet plea, a mirror to his own unspoken ache. Sure, why not? The next day dawned gray but dry, the air crisp with the promise of clearing skies. Elias arrived early, nursing a black coffee, his camera resting on the table like a third wheel. Lena swept in 10 minutes late, her hair tied in a loose braid, wearing a simple white blouse and jeans that hugged her curves. She carried her violin openly now, as if it were an extension of her arm. They talked for hours. She confessed her flight from Dublin 2 years prior, after her mentor, more father than teacher, passed suddenly, leaving her adrift in a sea of unplayed concertos. Music was his gift to me, she said, tracing the rim of her cup. Without him, it's like playing to an empty hall. Elias nodded, the words hitting too close. He shared fragments of Clara, the way she'd hummed off-key in the shower, the lies that unraveled like frayed strings. Trust is a lens you can't refocus once it's cracked. By evening, they'd wandered the pier, the sea a restless murmur below. Lena drew her violin from its case, playing a haunting melody that wove through the salt air, a piece she'd written that morning, inspired by the storm. Elias captured it all, her bow slicing the light, notes dancing on the waves. For the first time in years, his shudder felt like a bridge, not a barrier. That night, over fish stew at a harborside tavern, the barriers crumbled. "You're not what I expected," Lena said, her foot brushing his under the table. "Most men run from the rain. Most women don't stand in it," he replied, his hand covering hers. Their first kiss happened outside, under a canopy of stars peeking through parting clouds, tentative, then fervent, tasting of salt and possibility. The week blurred into a montage of stolen moments. Mornings in her rented cottage, where sunlight filtered through lace curtains as they made love, bodies entwined like vines reclaiming ruins. Afternoons exploring tide pools, her laughter echoing as she splashed him, his camera forgotten in favor of her smile. Evenings on the cliffs, where she'd play and he'd listen, the music a balm to wounds they no longer hid, but shadows lingered. On the fourth day, as they picnicked on a blanket overlooking the bay, Elias's phone buzzed, a text from his ex's lawyer, finalizing the sale of their old home. The proceeds would fund his gallery, but the reminder stung. He grew distant, staring at the horizon as if answers lay in the foam. Lena noticed, of course. That night, as rain pattered against the cottage windows, she confronted him. "You're pulling away, Elias. Like the tide after a storm." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Clara, she took everything. Not just the house, but the belief that love lasts. What if this is just another squall? Beautiful, but fleeting." Her eyes darkened, hurt flickering like lightning. "And you think I'm not afraid? My daw's death left me hollow. Every note I play is a ghost. But I chose to come here, to feel something real. If you're not all in, then walk away now. Don't drown us both in what ifs." He pulled her close, the argument dissolving into urgency, their bodies a fierce rebuttal to doubt. In the afterglow, tangled in sheets, he whispered, "Stay. After your gig, let's build something." She smiled, tracing his jaw. "Promise." The concert was on Saturday, the theater a relic of Victorian grandeur. Its chandeliers dripping crystal like frozen rain. Elias sat front row, heart pounding as Lena took the stage. Her gown was midnight blue, the violin an extension of her soul. She played her storm suite, a crescendo of fury giving way to serene swells, and the audience held its breath. Midway, her eyes found his, and the final movement swelled with unspoken vows. Applause thundered as she bowed, but backstage, elation shattered. A promoter from Dublin approached, offering a tour, 6 months across Europe, her big break. "It's everything you've dreamed," he said, clapping her shoulder. Lena's face lit, then faltered. She glanced at Elias, waiting in the wings, his expression unreadable. I need to think." They walked the empty beach that night, waves lapping at their bare feet. Moonlight silvered the sand, the air thick with unspoken fears. "Go," Elias said finally, voice rough. "This is your wave. Ride it. And you." Tears mingled with sea spray on her cheeks. "Will you wait, or fade like the tide?" He stopped, cupping her face. "I've waited my whole life for this. For you. But I won't chain you. Love isn't possession, it's release." She searched his eyes, the pull between dreams and heart a riptide. "Then come with me. Your lens, my strings. We could capture the world together." Elias laughed, a sound of pure relief. "Idiot. I thought you'd never ask." Dawn broke clear, the storm a memory. They packed her cottage, his truck laden with violin cases and camera gear. As they crested the cliffs, Blackport shrinking in the rearview, Lena slipped her hand into his. The road ahead wound like a melody, uncertain but alive. In the years that followed, their life became a duet. Concert halls in Vienna where he'd photograph her mid-arpeggio, misty fjords in Norway where she'd compose to his snapshots. Storms still came, arguments over schedules, the ache of separations, but they learned to dance in the rain, umbrellas forgotten. One evening, in a Paris attic apartment, as rain tapped a familiar rhythm on the skylight, Elias knelt with a ring carved from driftwood, etched with a wave. Marry me, Lena. Not despite the storms, but because of them. She pulled him up, kissing him fiercely. Yes, 1,000 times.